Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a neuropsychologist and clinical psychologist in private practice, and I'm also the parent of two ADHD kids, and I married into an ADHD family. So obviously, I'm a thrill seeker. Okay, but today I want to talk about one of the things that when I was doing a lot more private practice than I am now, but it was very frequent that people would complain about how hard it was to get people to go to bed or get their kids to go to bed, and then also to get them out the door in the morning on time. And that's one of those many areas where, as an ADHD parent, that is the parent of an ADHD child, you can't be quite as relaxed as the parent of a neurotypical child. You got to be planning ahead, thinking beyond the immediate. Uh, frankly, I was a lot of times I just reacted to whatever happened, but I didn't think about it a whole lot. Now, but then I started working with a lot of people, and then my kids got older, and it became more of an issue. So we had to have some plans, some procedures. It's almost like everything you do, you need a checklist for, so you know to do it early and not forget about it. And to have a smooth morning, because nothing starts your day off worse than the bus outside honking its horn and your kid's not ready, and he gets there and he doesn't have his homework with him, and of course with an ADHD kid that'll happen fairly regularly. So having a smooth morning actually starts at night. And so the night before, you have got to have a routine, and in the morning you have to have a routine. Okay, well, there are a lot of pieces that have to come together, but remember, routines save you, because routines become habits. And when they're habits, then it's not a matter of consciously having to think about it or consciously having to plan about it. It's like, I'm sure most of us out there brush our teeth, a couple of times a day, and we don't really think about it very much. Well, it's 6 o'clock in the morning or whenever, and I'm brushing my teeth, or it's right before I go to bed, so I'm brushing my teeth. You don't think about it. It's not a conscious decision. That can be real helpful when dealing with ADHD kids. One of the problems you have is that they don't have the awareness of time passage. That is, 10 minutes is the same as 2 hours as far as they're concerned. They just don't think about that, and they don't feel it. And they're not aware that, I've been messing around here for a long time, so I'm going to not be able to get something else done. That time management it's not time management, it's time awareness. Awareness of the passage of time. There are many people who can do it in their heads. They can say, 10 minutes is up, let's go. Most of us aren't quite that sharp, but most of us have some idea. Most neurotypicals have some idea that time has passed, and we better at least, if not check a clock, at least probably get something done. Now, the real deal, okay, so we want habits. We want routines that turn into habits, starting the night before, okay? The night before, we want, first things, homework wants to be done. And homework wants to be in the backpack or book bag or whatever people are using. And they need to be in the same place every day. There has to be a designated place for the book bag or backpack. Most of them are backpacks nowadays, but you want to have a position for them. Literally put tape around the square that they go into or something. But you have to, though, the night before anybody starts getting ready to go to bed, homework needs to be done. It needs to be in the book bag. The book bag needs to be by the door somewhere. Then, usually the night before as well, lunches are made. However, you do it in your family. If mom or dad is the person who usually makes some sandwiches or something, or if you have the kids are old enough to be involved in that, that's not a bad thing either. But either way, so the lunches need to be ready the night before. And then when we go upstairs, a lot of times, and probably it's a good idea just to insist on it in general, that clothes get selected the night before and they are laid out on a chair or a desk or someplace. So you go jump right out of bed and get into them first thing in the morning. The funny thing with my family was my one neurotypical child was the one who could not make up his mind. I don't know what to wear. Well, I mean, how many choices are there? You're a boy. You put on a pair of pants, you get a shirt, you're good to go. But that was one of the problems he had. And one of the things we get talking about some ADHD, and sometimes it's like all ADHDers are alike. And no, they're not. They're not. I mean, like I said, I had lots of stories about how horrible it was trying to get him out the door in the morning and how horrible it was trying to get him to go to bed at night. And we just didn't have that much trouble with that sort of thing. But we had pretty much organized, our a lot of our procedures were predictable, and so they didn't have to deal with anything. Okay, and the other thing about the night before is you need to give them, your ADHDers particularly, an advance warning that, oops, it's almost time to start getting ready for bed. Let them know no, probably 10 minutes before that they will be going up to bed shortly. And that, the ADHDers do tend to have trouble switching from one task to another task. Once they get into a specific task or activity, they have little trouble switching to something else. So you need to give them an extra warning. And that's, I say 10 minutes. Your particular child could need more time than that or less time, either way. And then, upstairs, the clothes are set out, and then it's just the bedtime routine. And a lot of times, ADHDers, as you well know, have some difficulties with organization. And I always am talking about externalize the executive functions. They're not very good at a lot of the different executive functions. That's reasoning, problem solving, that sort of thing. The kinds of things that an executive in a company does. They're not real great at that. So what you do is externalize it. That is, you give them something to look at, a checklist. They make a company. A friend of mine has a company in Canada that makes a thing. They call them Easy Daisies, and they're little pressed metal things that hang on the wall. They're colorful and all that, but they have a list on them, and you have a little magnet that you move when you get the thing done. Where you brushed your teeth, put on pajamas, those kinds of things. And a lot of times, especially younger kids, really, really kind of like that. They think that's great. So that helps, and that helps both at night and first thing in the morning. So then you've got them following a checklist, handling themselves, hopefully. And then, the clothes have been set out. And then whatever bedtime routine you have, brushing their teeth. Well, obviously they're going to brush their teeth, but do you read a story, or That means for some people, it's um, there is just a bunch of routine kind of things. Say your prayers, that kind of thing. So you get all that done, and then hopefully they get right to sleep. Sometimes they have a little trouble with that, but in general, they should go to sleep. ADHDers, sometimes somewhat surprising if they have real troubles with sleep, with insomnia and that sort of stuff. Sometimes a small dose of whatever medication they're on uh, helps their brain stay organized enough that they can drop off to sleep. Uh, sounds give them a stimulant so they go to sleep. What? Well, it works. So uh, just and understand that we in this country we have a humongous shortage of psychiatrists. So odds are that the person who's writing the scripts for the uh, stimulant medications, if your child is on them, is a family practice doc or an internal medicine or something else like that, but not a psychiatrist who's specialized in psychiatric difficulties. Which, although ADHD is actually a neurologic condition, most of the people who treat it are psychiatrists. Okay, so that gets them to sleep, hopefully, and then the next morning, same time. Don't let getting up in the morning become anything but routine. Okay, if you oh well, we can stay up late and then we'll sleep in the morning. It's not a good idea in an ADHD family. Stick to the routine. It won't. Nobody dies, and it's really important that you get them up and that they get up at roughly the same time. It's easier if it's all pretty much always the same time. Now, frankly, I have heard people have, can't get him up. Well, teenagers, yeah, they don't, they need more sleep anyway, and a lot of times they're the ones who fight you for to stay in bed. But this country is sort of, we don't do much scientifically, and we have a bunch of lawyers in state legislatures and that sort of stuff making all these decisions. Ideally, the younger kids would get up earlier. They're cool with it. They don't care. Teenagers, their bodies are going through such dramatic changes that they want more sleep and need more sleep, and probably should have the later uh, time to show up at school instead of 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is. And that's not based on good science, but so much is not. That's a little disappointing sometimes. So you get them up. You've got lunches are all ready. They're all by the backpacks or in the backpacks. They're dressed. There's not a whole bunch about eating, except do not give your kiddo a bowl of Captain Crunch and a Pop-Tart. You will get calls from the teacher very regularly. Okay, you won't want high, simple carbohydrate count kinds of food at breakfast. You want some protein. You want some, peanut butter on the toast at a minimum, or eggs have a lot of protein. Some cereals have a lot of more protein than others. And the deal, you just don't want sugar on sugar on sugar. And a lot of the breakfast cereals are just loaded with sugar. I mean, ADHDers are way more sensitive to low blood sugar than a neurotypical kid. When you have candy bar, say, some real high sugar, your blood sugar goes shooting up way up in like less than 20 minutes. It's at it's if you have had a lot of sugar, depending on your size and all that other stuff, you'll be so hopped up that it's uncomfortable. But so then your body goes into emergency mode and you get a huge squirt of insulin and your blood sugar goes. So you've gone from down low to way up as high as it can get and then back down again. And that happens in like around 40 minutes. And neither one of those positions, having real high sugar or real low sugar, it's uncomfortable. It's painful. And so your ADHDer is when they are, especially in the low blood sugar realm, they're, their blood sugar being that far down makes them very uncomfortable, which makes them more agitated. And they just, that was, the few times, every once in a while, oh, let's make some pancakes. What the heck? Well, not a good decision, Dad. not a good decision at all. I grew up in New Hampshire on a cold winter morning, a nice stack of pancakes. Anyway, that is not the thing you want to do to your child, and you probably don't want to do it to his teacher either, because that's difficult. And then the medication, if he's on medication or she's on medication, is an added kind of thing. But you want to be aware of that. That protein, some kind of protein in the morning is important. Yogurt, cottage cheese, peanut butter. You got to have different variations probably, but that's an important thing to do. There is one other thing. Some people have had difficulties, or some parents have had difficulties getting their child up. And so one lady I remember particularly said, well, I have 2 alarm clocks in his room. This was a teenager. And she put one by his bed and then one set to go off 10 minutes later across the room. So he had to get up out of bed and go across the room to turn off that irritating noise. Like I say, not all ADHD kids have that problem, but the other really important thing it's important for ADHD families in general, and probably important for all families. You've got to plan ahead. You've got to be organized. If every morning is chaos and people screaming and yelling and charging out the front door at the last minute, or, that's not good for anybody. And it's a bad start to the day. You want to have an ADHD kid especially, but all kids to some extent, you want them going off, calm, nice neurotypical part, their brain's working right, and nothing has agitated anything. And that's real important, because it makes it easier to, make the transition into school and that routine. And it just sets your child up for a more successful day. So there was quite a lot of details here in this particular presentation, but it's a kind of a complicated thing. But there are a number of things you need. An ADHDer will develop routines, will develop habits, and it's only by doing it all. And that means everybody's got to be on the same page, and everything's got to be, organized the same way and done the same way. Routines, it sounds boring as heck, but it works out pretty well and keeps the worst of things, because the more you change things, if your ADHD kid doesn't know from one night to the next exactly when bedtime is, or uh, when we're going to have to get up in the morning, or if everybody likes to stay up all night playing video games and then wait until Saturday and sleep till noon. That is an awful lot to adapt to. So you want to keep the routines as close to the same as you can, because that is your salvation. Then you've got to have planned ahead so that you've got everything organized. When they hit the front door, I'm just thinking of sometimes when they hit the front door and kids wearing one tennis shoe and one boot, and other charming and funny things like that. But anyway, so get your routines, look at your routines, figure out if you need to change anything, or if there's a particular problem. And as always, let's make the world safe for ADHDers, and let's also have a little bit of fun along the way. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, as I mentioned before. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. I'm a coach, and I do a lot of coaching with ADHD executives and ADHD families. Coaching, if you're not familiar with it, it doesn't require that you have a psychiatric diagnosis. It goes everything from high performance for like executives and athletes and CEOs and all that sort of thing. And it's also used for ADHD parents, ADHD coaches. So anyway, if I have an opening in my schedule right now, so if you are at all thinking about coaching, then give me a call. I have a Calendly account, so I almost always use it. It's a little bit tricky for me, but just go ahead and pick a time, and we'll spend a half hour or so just kind of getting to know each other and what the difficulties are and what you're looking for and so on. Okay, so we will catch you on the next episode, and have a good day.